Hello and welcome to Maxim Foods Inside Track. Some welcomed rain here today in Brisbane after a very dry spell over the last 2 months. Nice to see some weather or some wet weather here in Brisbane. Across the nation, very happy Australia at the moment after the World Cup victory in cricket on Sunday night. Very happy Australia, not so happy India, but yeah, a great tournament and well done to our cricketers. Let's have a look at the dairy industry. Let's have a look at whole milk powder. So we saw a slight increase in the GDT last night of 2%. Over the season, whole milk powder has held up reasonably well with some good demand. We had some strong engagement by Middle Eastern buyers last night on the auction. China were engaged as well. There are positive signs given that obviously there is a lot more volume on the GDT over the New Zealand season. So it is good to see that buyers are coming to the party and demand is looking reasonable. With talk of El Nino in the Q1, Q2 of next year and drought conditions, it does show some sentiment that things might remain stable or even pricing a bit firm into the start of next year. Having a look at skim milk powder. Skim milk powders has been the best performing of the commodities over the last 2 to 3 months. On the auction last night we saw the first decrease since September of 3.5%. All in all, demand seems reasonably healthy for skim milk powder. Obviously China is more of a maker of whole milk powder, so skim demand in China is still healthy. The outlook remains reasonably buoyant and we should see stability in pricing over the next 3 months. Moving across to butterfat, if we look on a global scale, US butterfat demand is still quite healthy moving into the holiday season, so their pricing is very firm. Looking over to the EU, have seen some stabilisation in pricing after a bit of an uptick over the last 2 to 3 months in butterfat demand. And then you look over in New Zealand, Australia, things remain reasonably healthy, or demand remains reasonably healthy, keeping pricing firm. In terms of an outlook, AMF in the last couple of auctions, the demand has been very much front loaded in those first couple of months, so a lot of hand to mouth buying, but demand is still there and prices are holding up. In terms of butter, 82% butter, we should see reasonably firm pricing coming in as the milk conditions in New Zealand and Australia taper off into Q1, Q2 of next year. Moving across to cheese. Cheese is an interesting one at the moment in the US. We have seen the CME pricing drift back, which has been a bit unexpected, given that there has been a reduction in milk in the US, but demand seems to be following that, and things seem a little bit bearish. In the EU, things are a bit more stable there, pricing relatively firm. In the Australian-New Zealand market, it's an interesting one. Demand has picked up for food service and retail. However, supply seems reasonably abundant at the moment. A lot of processors switching to a cheddar and whey mix at the start of the season, as it was a higher value mix. However, that has the hangover of that is that there has been a bit of stock produced, and there seems to be a bit in the market in Australia and New Zealand. Having a look at sweet whey powder. Sweet whey is in good supply at the moment, but demand seems to be holding up as well, so pricing is quite stable. If you look at the proteins, yeah, WPC and WPI just continue to on its very bullish run, with a lot of supply in the US, where people are obviously still making cheese, but the whey is a sweet whey instead of making WPC WPC, WPI. So there's been less supply in the States, and the same in the EU, where butter and skim mix production has been favoured to a cheese and whey. So there's less proteins, whey proteins in both the EU and the US, which really has led to a bit of a bullish run on WPC and WPI. How far that run goes, we don't know, but it is certainly in hot demand at the moment. Thanks very much for listening to today's Inside Track. It's a crazy time of the year, so happy Thanksgiving to all our US listeners, and yeah, just look after yourself over the holiday period and the run up to it, because I know everyone loses their minds over this season, but take care of yourself and one another.